The old lady made a shocking discovery up in the hills. This barren mountain in front of her might just be filled with gold. She couldn't believe her eyes. To verify if it was real, she immediately went down the mountain to call a local officer she knew. Soon, they returned together to the spot. The officer pulled out a small knife and scraped off some golden dust. He examined it carefully, over and over. The old lady looked on, full of anticipation. But the next second, the officer crushed her hopes. He said it was just pyrite, a mineral that looks like gold, and often fools people. He then reminded her it was getting dark, and urged her to head home before nightfall. But after returning to his car, the officer immediately made a phone call. The very next morning, he showed up at the base of the mountain with a whole team. They brought loads of detection equipment, and every single one of them was armed. They even blocked off all access to the mountain. Just as the group set foot on the mountain, an old hunter happened to arrive, ready for his usual morning hunt. He noticed the warning signs and the parked cars below. He was confused, but still picked up his gear and headed up the trail as usual. Meanwhile, the group of gold diggers arrived at the suspected gold mountain. One of the men pulled out a device and began scanning the area. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the results. The next moment, the detector lit up. The man was thrilled. He said the reading showed a huge gold deposit beneath them. This was definitely a real gold mountain. Hearing that, the group was overjoyed. They felt this trip had finally paid off. Soon after, they started fantasizing about living their dream lives. One guy in a suit even called home, saying he was going to replace all their toilets with solid gold ones. Just as everyone was basking in their joy, the old lady who had been picking wild herbs appeared out of nowhere. Seeing the group so ecstatic, she realized something wasn't right. This really was a gold mountain. She marched forward and confronted the officer, demanding the truth. At this point, the officer gave up pretending, and admitted the mountain was indeed full of gold. The old lady grinned proudly at the confirmation, but then the officer added, even if she was the first to discover it, that didn't mean the gold belonged to her. Besides, the land wasn't hers to begin with. Feeling deceived, the old lady said she was going down the mountain to spread the news. The group, helpless, could only lower their heads. But before she left, she dropped a bombshell. The entire mountain belonged to her late son, and she would never let them get away with this. Panic spread through the group. The officer quickly told the big guy to stop her. During the struggle, the man in the suit accidentally switched on the detector. Startled, the big guy turned around, and his massive backpack slammed the old lady down the slope. Everyone rushed down in a panic. They found her lying still, and had no idea what to do. But suddenly, the old lady opened her eyes. Relieved at first, the group quickly recalled her earlier words. Driven by greed, they made the decision to strangle her to death. That entire scene was witnessed by the old hunter. He picked up his rifle, ready to step in. But just then, a girl's voice echoed from down the mountain. Hearing it, the old hunter quickly pulled out his binoculars. He saw the girl, the old lady's granddaughter, who had a mental condition, was coming up the mountain looking for her grandma. Realizing how cruel this group was, he knew they wouldn't let her live either. Using his knowledge of the terrain, he decided to get the girl out before anyone noticed. He grabbed her and started leading her away, preparing to call the police. But right at that moment, the officer and his men showed up again, surrounding them in no time. They demanded the old man hand over his phone. Outnumbered, he had no choice but to comply. Just then, a faint sound came from behind. The old lady was still alive. Realizing their secret might be exposed, the officer lunged for the hunter's rifle. A scuffle broke out instantly. In the chaos, the girl's necklace slipped off and landed on the ground, right under the big guy's foot. As she tried to push him aside to grab it, her hand accidentally hit the trigger, and the shot landed squarely on the big guy. Everyone froze in shock. They rushed to check, and found him already dead. By the time they looked up, the old hunter and the girl had already disappeared. The group quickly gave chase. Just as they were about to catch up, the old hunter had an idea. He led the girl into a patch of dense bushes to hide. Then he scribbled a message on a piece of paper, telling her to go down the mountain and report to the police. He stayed behind to draw their attention. When the others arrived, the hunter had already vanished again. He was hiding in the woods once more. The officer was convinced he hadn't gone far. They split up. Two went after the girl. The rest would handle the hunter and the old lady. At that moment, the officer suddenly raised his rifle and knocked the hunter unconscious with the butt of the gun. He had suspected the hunter's hiding spot all along. They left the man in the suit to finish him off, while the rest headed to bury the old woman. Just as the suited man aimed his rifle, the old hunter began to murmur something. Curious, the man leaned in closer to listen, but the hunter suddenly grabbed a rock and knocked him out cold. Meanwhile, the others buried the barely alive old lady alive. The hunter sensed she was probably already gone. His priority now was saving her granddaughter. Elsewhere, the two men finally spotted the fleeing girl. They fired 2 shots to finish her, but their aim was awful. It wasn't until the 3rd shot that she collapsed. As they approached to check, the girl suddenly stood up. Turns out she hadn't been hit. She had just tripped on a rock. The men aimed to finish her for good, but at the last second, a shot rang out and hit one of them. The old hunter had arrived just in time. The remaining man tried to fight back, but was no match for the hunter. Not wanting to take another life, the old man let him go. Meanwhile, the constant sound of gunfire alerted the police at the base of the mountain. They decided to head up and investigate. Back in the woods, the old hunter was bandaging the girl's wounds.